Today, we're taking a really profound, deeply clinical look at a topic that causes just immense silent suffering. We're talking about relationship panic. Specifically, we're going to break down the groundbreaking insights of licensed marriage and family therapist Figs O'Sullivan, who has spent over 16 years in the trenches working with couples in crisis. We are going to completely dismantle the conventional wisdom about what it actually means when a partner pulls away. So prepare to unlearn a whole lot of what you think you know, because these insights are absolutely going to change how you view your relationship dynamics forever. Okay, let's just dive right into this. If you're going through this explainer, there's a good chance you might be sitting alone right now, maybe endlessly scrolling on your phone, searching for those articles and lists that confirm your absolute worst fears. You know what I mean, right? You're looking for someone or something to just tell you, yes, you aren't crazy. It really is over. You're exhausted. You're basically looking for permission to stop trying. But here is the massive glaring problem with those internet checklists that tell you, oh, he's always on his phone or he stopped making eye contact. They're missing a massive biological truth. They describe the surface behaviors perfectly, sure, but they fundamentally misunderstand the neurobiology that's actually happening underneath it all. Which brings us to section 1, the myth of not caring. To rethink this withdrawal and understand what's actually going on, we have to look at how human beings respond to threats in our relationships. Notice the stark contrast between our two primary biological responses to an attachment threat: protest and withdrawal. The protester gets loud, they pursue, they demand, they escalate. It's this desperate, urgent cry for connection. But the withdrawer, they go totally quiet, they retreat, they develop this completely flat affect that makes them look like they literally couldn't care less. But here is the clinical truth, and this is backed up by attachment science. Withdrawal is almost never a lack of caring. It's actually a sign of caring so much, of feeling so completely overwhelmed by a perceived failure in the relationship that their primal survival reflexes just totally take over. The actual why behind this withdrawal is something called a dorsal vagal response. It happens when a person's nervous system drops below what we call their window of tolerance. They aren't maliciously choosing to ignore you. Their nervous system is quite literally entering a state of extreme shutdown, collapse, or dissociation. Their social engagement system is being powered down by their own brain to protect them from the perceived threat of failing you. It's like pulling the plug on a computer. Let's put some numbers to this to make it even clearer. Imagine a nervous system regulation scale from 0 to 15. Your withdrawing partner is not operating in the normal everyday ranges. They are living right down there in the basement, somewhere between a 0 and a 5. And when a human being is in the basement, they simply cannot access their emotions, their words, or their warmth. Neurologically speaking, they have just gone entirely offline. So the absolutely crucial point here is knowing how to recognize the biological truths of this shutdown. You're going to see a flat effect, just a totally neutral face, lacking any micro expressions. You'll feel a loss of co-regulation, like the room just feels dead. They stop making those little bids for connection and they physically distance themselves. But pay really close attention to that final point, the hidden withdrawer. This partner doesn't necessarily look shut down. They look hyper rational. They build these calm, super logical arguments. Basically, they've weaponized their intellect as a defense mechanism against feeling the deep shame of failure. They look incredibly competent, but underneath they are completely emotionally dysregulated. Now for section 2, the waltz of pain. This is the deeply destructive dynamic that kicks in when these two biological responses collide in a distressed relationship. When these nervous systems collide, they build into what Figs O'Sullivan calls the waltz of pain. And it is this tragic self-reinforcing loop. Think about it. The protesting partner sounds the alarm because they feel disconnected. But the withdrawing partner hears that alarm, not as a bid for love, but as hardcore proof that they're failing. So what do? They retreat, and that retreat causes the protester to pursue even harder, which, you guessed it, causes further retreat. You might be experiencing the steps of this dance and thinking it's a funeral march for your relationship. But clinically speaking, it's actually a survival dance perfectly choreographed by the two of you. To truly understand the withdrawer's steps in this dance, we really have to look at the compass of shame. Underneath that maddening, frustrating silence isn't indifference. It is profound structural shame. When a person feels deeply inadequate, they usually move in one of four directions: withdrawal, avoidance, attacking themselves, or attacking others. So when your partner ghosts, goes silent, or passively says, whatever you think is best, they aren't not caring, they are terrified. They're terrified that engaging with you is just going to provide more evidence that they are a total disappointment. Moving to section 3, shutdown versus disengagement. We really have to address the elephant in the room here. How do we actually tell the difference between a partner who is protectively shut down and one who has literally left the building emotionally? This distinction is arguably the single most important concept in our entire explainer. Protective withdrawal versus genuine disengagement. If a partner is just protectively shut down, they'll still get triggered during arguments. Their nervous system is still active. They might avoid you by going to the other room, but they haven't left the house. You'll still see these micro moments of softness, and yeah, they might resist therapy, but they still show up. Genuine disengagement, though, that is entirely different. It features total flat indifference, not anger, indifference. There's zero jealousy. They speak about the relationship entirely in the past tense, and they've already built a parallel life without you. They aren't angry, they are just gone, which leads us to section 4, the defended self. Now, I'm going to challenge you directly here because we need to talk about your brain on pain and how it might actively be working against your relationship. See, when you are in pain, your brain builds what therapists call the story of other. Your defended self basically creates this highly efficient, totally justified, evidence-based narrative, proving that your partner is selfish, uncaring, and basically the enemy. And because you have like 100 pieces of evidence to back it up, it feels entirely true. But here's the kicker. Relationships don't usually die from a lack of love. They die from an excess of certainty. When you are absolutely certain your partner is the villain, you completely stop being curious about them. And remember, your partner has built the exact same kind of story about you. So I really want you to think about this question and let it sink in for a second. How would you know if you were wrong? When a therapist asks this in a session, the room usually goes dead quiet. Why? Because your defended self does not want to be wrong. It wants to be right. It desperately wants a final verdict so it can just stop hoping and stop hurting. But certainty is a liar. You owe it to yourself to make the biggest decision of your life based on clinical facts, not a story that your pain just wrote for you. So, what are the clinical facts? Here are the 5 exact data points a therapist assesses when a couple walks in and claims it's over. First, can they still hurt each other? If yes, guess what? The attachment bond is actually still alive. Second, are we seeing contempt, which means giving up on their humanity? Or is it frustrated pain screaming for change? Third, in those first 5 minutes, do their body angles and eye contact reveal an invisible string still connecting them? Fourth, is the withdrawal variable? Like, are there good days and bad days, or is it just a consistent flat line? And finally, if the therapist drops the word divorce, do they flinch in alarm, or do they just nod without any distress? All right. Section 5, finding sovereign ground. So what do you actually do with all this information? Well, to stand in truth and actually make a decision, you have to establish sovereign ground. Sovereign ground is that place where you finally stop managing your partner's emotions. You stop outsourcing your own stability to the relationship. You stand firmly in your own truth without needing your partner to agree with it or even validate it. And once you reach this ground, the foundational question changes entirely. You stop desperately asking, does he love me? And you start asking, am I willing to do the work to find out and accept whatever I discover? And here are the precise steps to plant your feet firmly on that sovereign ground. Number one, name what you are actually feeling. Your loneliness, your fear, not his faults. Number two, stop trying to get him to prove his love. Honestly, the pursuit of proof just keeps that waltz of pain going. Number three, get a skilled, licensed couples therapist who actually understands attachment dynamics. Number four, give the process 3 to 6 months of honest, supported work. That's enough time to really see if the bond is just dormant. And number five, trust the process, not the screaming voice of your story of other. Listen, if you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, remember this one fundamental rule. The internet is going to give you dozens of behaviors to panic over, for sure. But the only truly reliable sign that love is gone is the complete absence of emotional charge. Not anger, not physical distance, not even silence. Actually, scratch that. All of those can be the desperate acts of a nervous system in survival mode fighting to protect something it highly values. The true sign of the end is room temperature. It's when absolutely nothing you do produces any response at all, which brings us to our final thought today. You simply cannot diagnose the end of a relationship through a Google search. Your job isn't to be a detective playing gotcha. Your job is to create the conditions where the truth can safely emerge. So I'm going to leave you with this. Are you willing to do the work to find out the truth? Stop seeking permission from the internet, step onto your sovereign ground, and go seek the clarity you truly deserve. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to see your relationship and yourself with entirely new eyes. If you want to work on this for real, try Figlet, my AI relationship coaching app. You can start for free, no credit card needed, at figlet.empathy.com.